Trevor Gross from CUTigers.com. Good to see you again. How difficult was it for you to watch that playoff game from home?
It was probably harder the first couple of days. Just the initial shock of I had no idea it happened. Right as we were coming off the practice field for my final walkthrough, and I thought I was being summoned over to the side to talk about possibly an injured player. When they told me, man, I broke down, just disappointed. Started thinking immediately, what have I done? Could I did something better? But by the time we got to the game and I was able to be a part of the preparation, I knew that the guys were ready to play, and I was just excited to see them play, and thought they did a good job, early on, and then it was a little bit tougher towards the middle of the game, when things weren't quite going our way. But by the time I got to the game, I kind of centered myself and found a little peace, understanding that, hey, God doesn't say oops, everything happens for a reason. But as the game went on, just to see the guys struggle and know I wasn't there to help them out, that's when it started to hurt.
Coach, how are you acclimating to your new job with the tight ends?
Man, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. First, it's a real honor to be asked to move positions so CJ Spiller could come in, because I'm a guy that knows all about the program. And if there wasn't CJ Spiller, then I wouldn't be in this position that I'm in today. So first and foremost, man, it was an honor that coach would ask me to move positions so that CJ could come in. And it's also an opportunity for me to pay back, because that similar situation happened to me at Furman. When I was hired at Furman, the receiver coach transitioned to running back so that I could have an opportunity to come on staff. So it's pretty cool to see how, the Lord brought that back on me. But it's been fun, because now, I know receiver play. So I get back kind of to my roots a little bit. The first 5 years of my career, I coached receivers. And then now, so challenge of learning, of the run of their job. So, man, it's been a lot of fun. Different personality type. I always knew a very different position, but until you sit in that seat, it gives me a newfound respect for what all Danny had to do in preparation, the things that I asked him to do, because there's so much detail in that position. So it's been fun. It feel like the guys are responding well. They're definitely gravitating to the receiver aspect of the position, which is more my expertise than the run block. But I'm having fun getting in there with Robbie, learning all the intricate calls, hand placement, angles of your steps, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a lot of fun.
Tony, Gary McDaniel from Clemson Sports News. What do you be seeing from Lynn J this spring, now that he's transitioning and possibly being your starter with the most reps? What are you seeing from him, and how are you feeling about it?
Today just was an opportunity. We really haven't had the pads on, but for a couple of days today, we kind of got out the way and let him bang a little bit. Just seeing more decisiveness in his cuts. Trusting the system. CJ's doing a good job of helping him to transition. We know he's a great perimeter runner. But what I've seen just a little bit more sense of urgency, squaring up his pads, and trying to do the dirty things so that he can get opportunities to hit them home runs, which he's capable of.
Hey, Coach. Todd,
Go ahead, Todd.
Thanks, Matt. Listen, I'm just a little bit more on CJ. What does he bring? A different perspective besides being a great running back. What does he bring to the room?
Well, he can talk about some things that I may not have personally experienced, just the true preparation process, as a running back. I can talk, specifically about wideout, because that's what I played. I did the best I could, to try and teach myself that, but he has firsthand knowledge. He can talk more of the eye discipline. I know, what to teach, but I've never done it. And it's a little bit different when you've actually done some of the things. You just have a different perspective. And then he's a guy that's, man, he's done everything right. You know what I'm saying? He's sacrificed. He came back to school, and then he was rewarded. So he understands, the importance of being prepared for the next level. So, he can have those conversations, with those guys, which is awesome. Then he has the experience of being, on the IPTAY board. So he's experienced life after football specifically from that position. So he just brings a perspective, that's a little bit different than mine. Whereas I had to do everything I could, and I did, and I felt like I did a really good job for 10 years coaching those guys, trying to fill the position. But he just has a natural feel, and the guys have gravitated towards him because of that.
Tony, this is Matt. Can you speak just about what this offseason was like for you personally, and having some decisions to make, and then ultimately coming back to Clemson, and just what that process was like?
I thought I had kind of made it through, unscathed there. And then the situation came up late with Tennessee, and really appreciative of Danny White and just his interest in me and having an opportunity to talk to him and go through that experience. And definitely it was something that I really had to sit down and think about and consider and pray about and talk to people and try to find the right confirmation. And at the end of the day, when I put everything on the table, it just wasn't the right time. And so, man, I'm just so happy to be in an environment where people embrace me, even though I was going through that, showing me support, one way or another. Having an opportunity to have those conversations with Coach Sweeney, just strengthens our relationship even more. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't the right time. And man, I'm just so happy to be here. You guys know I love it here. It's a special place. But it was good to go through that experience. But at the end of the day, Tennessee's a great program. Really honored to even be considered. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the right time.
Tony, this is Grace from The Athletic. Just as a follow-up on that, what are you looking for in the future?
And trying to really stick to my guns, looking for, alignment, really just the same vision, from top to bottom, from whether it's the president or chancellor, that runs the institution, down to the athletic director, down to the head coach. Everybody's on the same page just in terms of their perspective of the student athlete and what their mission is with the student athlete. And then just, how the program's going to be run, an opportunity to win, definitely. There's going to be high expectations wherever I go because of where I'm leaving. Right. And I want to be in a situation where the people that I bring along, because it's going to be hard work wherever I do decide when the Lord opens the right door, it's going to be hard work. So I really want to be in a position where we have a legitimate opportunity to win. I want to be in a situation ideally where, I don't have to move. I want to be in a situation where I can hunker down and really fully invest in the community, fully invest, in the institution, fully invest in the program, build something special, have my family kind of grow up in that community, very similar to how Coach Sweeney is. And so those are the things that I'm looking for, an opportunity to recruit. So just really more bottom line, an opportunity to win and win the right way and have the full support of everybody that touches that program.
Hey, Coach, it's Trevor again. You picked a good time to move to tight ends with all the talent you have. What are your first impressions of Jake Brenningstool? And do you think he might be able to actually contribute as a freshman, having come in this spring? I know it's a tough position to learn, but
right.
Just having this extra time to learn it.
Man, I've been thoroughly impressed just with his ability to catch on. Obviously things are still spinning around in his head. We're 5 days in. Still going with the install, but just his ability to comprehend and make the adjustments. And again, he's gonna mess up his handful of plays, but really been impressed with his football knowledge. Coming in with a great base, especially from a wide receiver perspective, man, he has a natural feel for running routes. He's got great ball skills. And, the thing that's really impressed me is, man, even though he's only 216 pounds, he's not afraid to put his face in the fan, and he's going to give everything that he has. He's as physical, as he can be, with his length and with his size. And as we get him in the weight room, grow him up a little bit more, I think we found something special in Jake.
Hey, Tony, Brad Sinkoff here. I see the C baseball cap on your head. I've seen you a lot at baseball games over the years, and I noticed you were there the other week during opening day, and you were really enjoying it with your family. And I just noticed that you were kind of talking to your son, explaining the game, and I'm just curious, what is your passion for baseball, and where does it come from, and why are you such a big baseball guy?
So growing up in California, that was my first love, and so the first ball I picked up was a baseball. And for those who are from California, familiar with California, baseball's king out there. I didn't touch a basketball really until I moved to the South. So it was baseball first, and then about 12 years old, I started getting into football. So it was instilled in me at a young age. I really liked just the internal battle, just the internal competition of the game. Obviously, it's a physical game, but it's an extremely mental game. So that's where it started. Just growing up, I fell in love with the game. Played it all the way through high school. Was a 3-sport athlete. I honestly believe that if I would have concentrated on baseball, I might have been able to play for a while. But moving to the South, baseball wasn't quite as popular, down in Charleston in my community. So I kind of transitioned more to football, played a little bit of basketball. But man, I've always loved baseball. And right now, my oldest son, man, he's ate up with it. He loves baseball. He's 7 years old, getting ready to turn 8. He's playing with the 8 and under. He probably could play with 10 and under. So he just has a passion for it. So it's just so cool to be able to sit down and share with him what my first passion as it relates to sports was, to just let him know that, hey, you don't have to follow in daddy's footsteps, but this is where daddy started, right? This is what I like to do. And if you love it, then I'm going to share everything I know with you.
Do you have a relationship with Monty Lee or anybody else on that coaching staff?
Monty and Bradley live in my neighborhood, and probably I'd say I'm closer with Bradley because he has two sons that are on age, close with my sons. And so, man, they're always out playing in the yard. And, when during football season, when I'm tied up, man, Bradley does a good job with the boys, taking them out in the yard, letting them hit tennis balls, take them to the tennis court, work on different fundamentals. So I'm closer with Bradley just because our boys are on age, but definitely I see Monty all the time, we speak very cordial, but I probably spend more time with Bradley because his boys are on age with mine.
Hey, Tony, it's Josh from Charleston. On that note, does that kind of raise the bar for you when you're looking at other jobs, just given how your sons have already started to grow up in this community in Clemson?
You definitely, and Coach Sweeney has created an unbelievable model, from a family perspective. And everybody knows the relationship that I have with him. And obviously he's my boss, my colleague, but also a father figure to me. And to see how he's been able to raise his boys. And then also, he's proving that at the end of the day, what's really most important is the quality of life. And so I'm very particular about the quality of life because I know how I was raised and I know the things that I had to go through. And my wife and I, we made a decision that, man, we're going to put our faith in God. We're going to make sure that we're grounded, being humble. We're going to get our education and we're going to try and create the best quality of life for our sons that we possibly can. Obviously, they're going to need adversity to be able to grow. But for me, it's more about everything else than it is actually the football piece. And that's something that I've learned through my relationship with Coach Sweeney and being here for 10 years.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Mark at WYFF. Hey,
Go ahead,
Tony.
Mark.
Mark. Thanks. I'm just curious, for you, going back to considering the head coaching openings, how fortunate do you feel to be in a place professionally where you can be so selective about taking that next opportunity?
I really attribute it to everybody around me. And I understand the position that I am, and I benefit because of a lot of people. I say it all the time. I stand on the shoulders of giants. There's a lot of people that have paved the way for me to have this opportunity. And so I'm very, very, appreciative, very, very humble. And that's why I want to be so selective from that aspect. But then also, too, I understand that to me, football is a calling. It wasn't what my initial life plan was. I was going to school to be an engineer and move on in that direction. And I know for a fact that the Lord called me into coaching. And so I want to make sure that I keep the right perspective. And make sure that my career is not defined by the title, that I possess. But also, as he blessed me with opportunity to be in authority, making sure that I'm very, very mindful of how I manage myself and manage those underneath me with that authority. So I'm very, very fortunate. And again, sometimes I ask the Lord, man, why me? But at the end of the day, he has me where he wants me to be. And I'm just trying to be faithful to him to make sure that I do the best that I can. And then also understand that, hey, it's never really about me. It's about everybody else. So really, I'm standing on the shoulders of the success that we've had here at Clemson. So it's really not about me. It's really about what the program has done. And that's the concept that Coach Sweeney talks about all the time about, the team concept. When we buy in a team, then ultimately everybody is going to be able to achieve, the objectives and the goals that they have set for themselves.
Tony, this is Matt again. Did you get any new perspective or any kind of different feel just not being at the Sugar Bowl? And what are some of your big takeaways, not only from that game, but just last season that as you turn to a new year?
2020 was challenging. And, it started off a little bit rougher in my family than some people know. My wife, she came down with an illness, right before the pandemic. And we were struggling to try and figure out a diagnosis. Really haven't keyed in on a diagnosis, but we were able to find some medication to help her kind of balance back out so she can get back to normal. So that with the pandemic, and then you're going through all of the different things from a country standpoint, from the social justice perspective, man, it was tough on everybody. So really just an appreciation for the true value of people. The only way we were able to get through it as a program was to count on each other, to rely on each other, to find joy in other people's success, and then feel the pain, in the adversity that they had. So what I took from last year was that, hey, nothing's promised. You can't take anything for granted. You got to appreciate every single day and truly, truly operate from a place of joy, regardless of what the circumstances are around you. You can't be worrying about what's happening because that's what leads to happiness. You just have to wake up every single day with joy. And then not being there with the team, it just illustrated to me that I'm not bigger than the team. No one person is bigger than the team. And we never know when our number is going to come up and we're not going to be a part of the team, and we're going to be on the sideline, not able to help. So when you do have an opportunity, you make the most out of every single day. And that's probably the big picture thing that I learned in general about, 2020, from the pandemic to my wife's situation to the bowl game there. or the playoff game is just don't take anything for granted.
Tony, how have you spoken? What have you seen from Tyson, and how important is it for him to really take that next step and be that guy to step in that number 2 role?
And it's huge. It's huge for him. Just definitely seen a different demeanor about him. When he's been out there taking his reps, you see that he's trying to process things, the way he needs to process them, not relying on talent, but really, really diving into the details. And it's huge. I think, last year illustrated that, unbeknownst to us, Trevor's out for 2 games. Now DJ has to step in. And so it really reinforced, the concept that we have here, that it's next man up and you're really one play away. So I've just seen a different sense of urgency about him, to really, really hone in on the details. And I think feels like he's one step closer, to really, really, really being able to touch and see and contribute to the team. So you just see a renewed sense of urgency.
Tony, I think I ask you this about every offseason, but as you went back and kind of looked at things from last year, areas you need to improve, what are, say, the 2 or 3, maybe 4 things you're really focused on this spring with this offense?
With this offense is just consistency, in our footwork. When you break down, obviously you can look at stats and you gotta respect the stats, but when you dive down on things, it really just came down to the fundamentals, man. It's just the proper step at the proper time, the proper communication, just really getting back to the details. Some third down situations where we were good last year. In those situations, we weren't as good. Like you take short yardage, we were much better in short yardage this year, right? But then those kind of problems transitioned to 3rd and 3. We weren't as good in 3rd and 3, so we got to improve in 3rd and 3. We had 3 turnovers in the red zone, which dropped our red zone efficiency down. And then again, just the games where we weren't as productive running the ball. What was that? And there was one game in particular that first time up at Notre Dame, I needed to do a better job, to have some variety, in the plan to help those guys, in that tough situation. And we learned from that. And then you come back in the Notre Dame game, the second Notre Dame in the bowl game, in the championship game, and we fixed those problems technically, but then we also had enough schematically to help those guys out. So just making sure, that we're constantly pushing the envelope, making sure that we have enough, but never going into a game plan without having enough. So those are some of the big points. And, the depth on the offensive line, we really got to grow that depth up. And I think when you look at some of the struggles, on the outside from the run game perspective, there were really 3 games where we're ineffective, rushing for less than 4 yards a clip. And that was the first Notre Dame game, which I kind of, dissected there. It was a combination of just lack of fundamentals in crunch time, and then some schematic things that I can do better. Boston College, man, they were dead set on their structure was going to stop the run, and we didn't quite have the threat of the quarterback pull, in that game plan. And then you get into the Ohio State game, was running the ball good early. And then once the game kind of got into a track meet and they were pinning their ears back, it was hard to become efficient running the football. So you had to lean on the pass. So those are some of the areas, big picture that we're going to work on. And then each position, is kind of drilled down within their positions to the areas that they're going to improve.
Hey, Tony, this is Anna with Clemson 24/7. You just mentioned the offensive line needing to grow up. Are there any of those second years or even third years that have taken that next step?
You've had an opportunity to see, Paul Teal. Paul Teal is a guy that he's a big guy, a big body that can create movement. He just has to grow up and say, what, now's the time. And I think you're starting to see him make that transition. You're starting to see Mitchell Mays. He's been asked to do a lot, play both sides, but now he's kind of figuring it out. And you can see his true athleticism, start to rise to the top. Rayburn is a guy that I've been really, really pleased with thus far. He's a guy that's probably taken the biggest step, of all those guys that we're really counting on. There, Trotter's another guy that's going to have to take a step. Obviously, we know what Walker Parks is capable of. So those are kind of the guys that I think about right now that have caught my attention. John Williams, he's another one that's kind of been thrown in the fire, playing a little bit out there at tackle, and he's held his own. So you're starting to see those guys make those strides, and that's what you expect here in spring ball. Now it's the time for them. They've been through a season. They kind of got their bearings about them. Now they've been through a season. Now they've gone through the bowl game. Some of them already been here for a spring, so they know what spring ball is going to be like. They're a little bit calmer. It's not overwhelming. Now they can really focus in on perfecting their craft with the detail of each position.
Tony, this is Matt again. Dabo said that Joe made some improvements as a football player, but he's still got some growing up to do in other areas. Just what do you guys want to see from him? And then where is he at as far, like Dabo said, there were 5 guys that were kind of standing out, but didn't mention him. Just where is he at as far as trying to get into that mix?
I think that today was a good day for Joe. You saw him make some plays, but we all know, having done this for a while, dealing with, college age guys and having experience, when he's more consistent with the little things, off the field, then it's going to transition to the field. And for him, it's not the big things, man. The guy can run, jump, he can make every catch. He's physical. He's gotten even bigger. It's just the consistency to be able to do that, play in and play out. And that's where he has to grow up. And so if he's not mentioned, it's not because he's not making a play. It's just he consistently is not making the plays that he should make. And once he figures it out and says, you know what, I'm going to make every aspect of my life, as important as football is, then guess what? Football is going to elevate. But if you don't, if you're a different person somewhere else and you don't want to be on time, you don't want to do the little things, you don't want to take care of your body, then guess what? Your football is going to suffer. I don't care how much you love it, how hard you work at it, you are who you are. So whatever you're struggling with over there, if you don't attack it and you don't turn it into a strength, then guess what? It's going to show up as a weakness in football.
Tony, Larry Williams here. What's your evaluation of the tight ends last season? I mean, the numbers good, but maybe over the second half of the year, anecdotally, maybe not the factors, I guess, that perhaps you guys wanted them to be on big plays and such like that.
But I think just overall, when you look at the production, 50 receptions out of that position compared to, I was looking at the numbers over the last couple of years, man. There were years where they caught 18, 20 balls, and now they're up, in that 50 range, which was close to what, Leggett probably is the one we remember the most around here. And I think his top season was 43 catches, but he was the primary tight end. He wasn't splitting reps. So, I think the guys are coming, right? I think the guys are coming, and I think the transition is going to help. Obviously, Danny laid a great foundation from the run aspect of things, right? And we saw that production. We saw Braden trying to be more physical. We saw Davis's, production in the run game. But now the transition, I think I'll be able to help them with some of the aspects from a receiver position. And I think that's going to take them to the next step, to where now they're able to understand, right, and create the matchups that they naturally have, because people are going to try and take those away. So, man, I'm encouraged definitely with the direction that we're going. We still got some work to do. We got to grow up some of the younger guys. Jaylay's got to come on. We got to get Sage. We got to get Sage up to his next level, and then bring Jake along as fast as we can. So overall, I think top to bottom, talent-wise, when I'm in there working with them every day, I think there's a ton of talent. I just think we got to bridge that gap, take that next step from the receiver aspect of the position, which is going to equate to, some more production down the road.
We've got time for about 2-3 more.
Hey, Coach, it's Trevor again. You've got Justin Ross playing slot. I can't remember the last time I saw a 6'5" slot receiver. How does that affect your offense? Obviously, he's got a little different skill set than Amari. He can go up and get those high ones.
Man, I tell you what, I played with one that was an all-time leading receiver in school history, and Derek Hamilton. Man, when you got a dude like that, 6'4", 6'5", and can cut on a dime, that creates some problems. And the good thing about him is now you're going to be able to move him around, because he's going to start in the slot, but he's still going to have to be proficient on the outside. So you can just kind of get him off the ball a little bit, move him around, create some matchups. So we're really excited about that. Obviously, he's doing what he's doing within spring practice as much as he can until he's fully able to do everything from a contact standpoint. But so far, he's looked great, and I'm excited about it. And he's excited about the transition, because I think all those guys want to be able to play on the next level. And the more positions you can play as a wide receiver, the greater your chances are of not just getting there, but staying there, because you're a multiple guy. You can do different things. So, man, I'm excited. So now you're going to be able to have some true length. When you're talking about 6'5" in Braden, and you got 6'5" in the other slot, and then you got 6'4" on the outside, man, people are going to have to make some decisions. And I think going back to that last question, when you're dynamic on the outside and you're dynamic in the slot with the tight end position, then people really have to figure out how they're going to take us away. I mean, what they're going to try and take away in terms of our attack.
Tony, what as far as Joseph Ngata, I'm sorry, how difficult was last year as a whole, and based on what you've seen of him so far, is he back to 100% and good to go?
So far, what I've seen in the time that we're together doing the competitive stuff versus defense, man, he's looked good. I can't tell any difference. But again, I'm not pinpointing every play. Grish would have a better feel on that. But from what I've seen, man, he's been making plays. Man, he's been running past people, so he looks like the Joseph of old. And for us, it was difficult just because you look over and you see those triple towers over there standing on the sideline. Like, you're like, what if? But at the end of the day, you can't go what if. You got to, next man up. And Cornell did an unbelievable job of stepping in and picking up the slack for those guys when they went down. And I think that's just a testament to the character of the program, right? But more importantly, the character of Cornell, of being there to not only, support his brother with everything that's going on off the field, but being able to pick up the production in his place. So for Joe, man, I know it's been tough because he's just been battling through some nagging things, but he looks like he's in a good place mentally. Physically, he looks good. Now he just has to continue to push, get his conditioning back, and then get all of his timing back. But so far, man, he's looked pretty good in 5 days.
We'll take one more.
Hey, Tony, the running back room that you left, what is it looking like in the pecking order there outside of Lynn Jake, who has the obvious touches? What are the other guys looking like?
Kobe's a guy that, that caught everybody's attention early on. It was just a situation where there were so many guys that had more knowledge than him. So I see he's going to be a guy that's going to be pushing Lynn Jake at the top. Ches was starting to come into his own towards the back half of the season with the opportunities that he was getting. So now he's pushing, up there at the top. The great thing is CJ has an opportunity to kind of set the stage the way he wants to, and make all those guys go and compete. So one thing I do know is there's some competition going on. And then today, in our work, Phil Moffitt, he flashed. I think everybody was like, man, that's a big guy. But everything has been controlled. Today, we kind of got out the way and let him play, man. And he popped the big long run. And you saw that explosion that he had. And, Shipley, every time we see that cat, man, he's flying around 100 miles an hour. So the best thing is that there's competition there. And we got we just had 5. So we got 9 more days for those guys to really, really compete. But the guys that I'd say that are showing the most push right now would be Ches and Kobe pushing Lynn Jake. And then Mikey's been down a little bit just because of the ankle.